Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for my tardiness today, so let's get right to it. We'll begin today with some scheduling announcements for President Trump's upcoming trip to Asia. Tomorrow night at 11 p.m., the president will depart the White House to fly to Malaysia, where he will arrive on Sunday morning local time. It's a long flight. President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Malaysia in the afternoon, and then he will attend the ASEAN Leaders Working Dinner that evening. On Monday morning local time, the president will fly to Tokyo. Tuesday morning local time, President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with the new Prime Minister of Japan. On Wednesday morning local time, the president will fly to Busan, where he will participate in a bilateral meeting with the President of the Republic of Korea, deliver keynote remarks at the APEC CEO luncheon, and then participate in a U.S. APEC Leaders Working Dinner. On Thursday morning local time, President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with President Xi of the People's Republic of China before departing to return home to Washington, D.C. On Thursday night, upon arrival in Washington, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will participate in Halloween at the White House, where they will welcome law enforcement, military, and foster families. And I know many of us look forward to that. In other news, we are now on day 23 of the Democrat government shutdown. Senate Democrats have voted 12 separate times now to keep the government closed. Innocent Americans are suffering every day as a result. More than 500,000 civilian federal employees will miss a full paycheck tomorrow. Thousands of small business loans are going unapproved each month. This means almost $4 billion in capital is being withheld from small businesses across the country. The Democrat shutdown is also causing severe impacts at airports across the country. In one single day this week, the FAA had to issue ground stops impacting flights at Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport and Hobby Airport. 13,000 air traffic controllers who ensure that we all fly safely are continuing to work without pay. This is egregious and truly sad. Some of them are reportedly being forced to turn to driving for Uber and taking on other second jobs to make ends meet as the Democrats continue to shut down the government. Pilots are calling on Democrats to end this dangerous political game. The president of the Southwest Airlines Pilot Association called for the clean continuing resolution to be passed, saying, quote, "Our air traffic controllers and the broader air traffic system are already operating under immense pressure. A government shutdown only compounds that stress and threatens the efficiency of our skies." The Airline Pilots Association International, which represents more than 80,000 pilots, is sounding the alarm as well. They said this shutdown is undermining our system's safety. Resources are stretched thin, negotiations are delayed, and strain grows daily. With the Thanksgiving holiday approaching, we are nearing the busiest travel period of the entire year, when millions of Americans will go to airports to spend time with their loved ones. Let us be very clear from the White House today. If the Democrats continue to keep the government closed, we fear there will be significant flight delays, disruptions, and cancellations in major airports across the country this holiday season. If Democrats continue to shut down the government, they will also be shutting down American air travel. The White House is in constant communication with the air traffic controllers, with the airline associations, and with them, we urge Democrats to please pass the continuing resolution so we can just end this madness and this chaos and reopen the government. These are very avoidable consequences. The unnecessary pain, unfortunately, does not end there. Funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program known as SNAP, which provides food benefits to low-income families, is beginning to lapse this week in some states. If Democrats continue to hold Americans hostage, there will not be enough funds to provide SNAP benefits for more than 40 million Americans on November 1st. That is next week. Democrats are solely responsible for all of this unnecessary pain. Why are they doing it? To give taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal aliens, some of whom are violent criminals. During the 4 years of Joe Biden's administration, the Democrats forced Border Patrol to admit illegal aliens into our country with no legal status and minimal screening. A significant number of these individuals are the worst of the worst criminals: rapists, pedophiles, murderers, and even members of the terrorist watch list. Despite having no legal status, paroled aliens were able to file for work authorization, receive Social Security numbers, and access other benefits like Medicaid that are meant for Americans. Since I've found many in this room to repeatedly deny the reality that Democrats gave Medicaid benefits to illegals and they continue to seek to do just that, I've brought a few verified examples for you today. These are examples of some of the illegals who received Medicaid benefits under President Biden's leadership, and this is what Democrats are wanting to do. This is why they are continuing to keep the government closed. An illegal alien from Laos was arrested for murder, robbery, and felony possession of a firearm. An illegal alien from Guatemala who was arrested for rape and burglary. An illegal alien from El Salvador who was arrested for strangulation, DUI, and burglary. An illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested for attempted murder. The Democrats' open border policies allowed these threats into our country, and then they provided them with free health care. The president and Republicans, through the One Big Beautiful Bill, implemented a common sense reform to end this fraudulent scheme. But that's why the Democrats are continuing to shut down the federal government. They are trying to reverse this and restore taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens like these. Throughout this shutdown, Democrats have said this quiet part out loud. Senator Chuck Schumer, the leader of the caucus that is refusing to open the government, said, quote, "Every day gets better as the shutdown continues." Ask the air traffic controllers if every day is getting better, Senator Schumer, and they will tell you absolutely not. House Democrat Catherine Clark said, "There are going to be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility seriously, but this is one of the few leverage points that we have." Here is a House Democrat who is admitting that they are using Americans who are suffering as political leverage. And Senator Bernie Sanders said, "If you reopen the government, we lose our leverage." This is pure partisan games. A senior Democrat aide said the party will not end the shutdown, quote, "short of planes falling out of the sky." That is truly a disturbing statement. The Democrats clearly don't care about this suffering. They care about playing political games against President Trump, and this dangerous charade needs to end.
Subject.
President and Republicans
Mastering CapCut is the 15 effects that I'm about to show you.
Pass a clean, nonpartisan funding bill to reopen the government. And then we can talk about all of the partisan issues that the Democrats wish to. If you're watching at home, we urge you to call your Democrat senators and tell them to put our country over their party and reopen the government today. Here in our new media seat, we have Brittany Gibson of Axios. Brittany, why don't you start us off for our Q&A today? Thank you for being here.
Two questions, if I may. First is, we understand that the president and Republicans will not negotiate on ACA extensions until the government reopens. If and when that happens, what does the president think should be, or what are his plans for preventing rising healthcare costs for Americans?
It's a very good question, and I'll leave that to the president to negotiate that when Democrats vote to reopen the government. When it comes to lowering healthcare costs, the president is deeply committed to this. It's why he has spent so much time and effort negotiating with Big Pharma to lower the healthcare costs of prescription drugs. All of you have been in the Oval Office for multiple different announcements. We've had these most favored nations deals with these large pharmaceutical companies committing to lowering drug costs in this country. So it's something the president wants to do. And Brittany, one more point. I'll just point out the irony in Democrats holding the government and the American public hostage over a healthcare system that they created. The healthcare system was called Obamacare. Why? Because Democrats and President Obama implemented. And Republicans have always said it's a broke system, yes, but they caused it, and now they want to shut down the government to fix it. We need to open the government, and then we can have these very important conversations about it.
An effect from Jack Harlow, where he isolates just one singular color from his
During the
video.
campaign,
CapCut makes it
President Trump
easy to
said
do.
he wanted to make it easier for foreign students to work at U.S. companies, staple a green card to every diploma. But the changes from several agencies now on H-1Bs are adding more obstacles to that. The administration is being sued over those changes. Can you explain the changes in the president's thinking
Using
on
the
H-1Bs?
adjustment and HSL
Administration will
tab,
fight these lawsuits in court. The president's main priority has always been to put American workers first. and also to strengthen our visa system. We know for far too long the H-1B visa system has been spammed with fraud, basically, and that's driven down American wages. So the president wants to refine this system,
I can now
which is
isolate
part of the
and
reason he
desaturate
implemented
all the colors that I
these
don't
new
want.
policies.
I don't
These
want
actions are lawful, they are necessary, and we'll continue to fight this battle in court. Garrett.
Two questions on different topics.
Sure.
On the pardon of Changpeng Zhao, and apologies if I'm mispronouncing that name, Binance has significant business interests with World Liberty Financial, the president's family's crypto company. How do you respond to the allegations from Democrats that this is a corrupt act?
I would respond and say the president is exercising his constitutional authority to grant clemency requests, and the president and the White House have a very thorough examination of every pardon request that comes to the president's desk. It is thoroughly reviewed by the White House Counsel Office, and I spoke with our great White House counsel about the pardon after it happened. This was an overly prosecuted case by the Biden administration. Even the judge in the case admitted that the Biden administration was pursuing a egregious over-sentencing of this individual, and the previous administration was very hostile to the cryptocurrency industry. So the president wants to correct this overreach of the Biden administration's misjustice, and he exercised his constitutional authority to do so. And to the Democrats, I would just say there's nothing more corrupt than what President Biden did on his way out the door, pardoning his extremely corrupt son and many of his associates.
On the ballroom, first of which will probably be several questions about this today, I imagine.
Is it a big story?
It seems that way. The president's cost estimate has changed several times. I think it's up to $300 million now. Given the nature of all this, will the White House commit to releasing all of the donors and how much they're spending and how much of his own money the president is putting on the line to this?
We have released
on your top video layer, you go to video, remove background.
Perhaps there will be more people who want to generously contribute to this project. And the president, yes, has committed his own resources, and when he releases that information, which I'm very confident he will, you will all see that.
Your video layer, on your top video layer, you go to video.
Yes, he will. And I would also just add, the president has been incredibly transparent. I would reject any notion otherwise when it comes to this ballroom project. It's something he personally has obviously taken an interest into and has talked with all of you in this room many times about. You have seen the model in the Oval Office. Last night he showed that for you. But when this plan was presented and when these renderings, as soon as they were complete, the president directed me to come out here and to share them with all of you. I did an entire opening remarks about what this ballroom project was going to look like. With any construction project, there are changes over time as you assess what the project is going to look like, and we'll continue to keep you apprised of all of those changes. But
then by adding a text layer, you can drag that
this is going to be a magnificent addition to the White House for many years to come, and it's not costing the taxpayers anything. The president is privately funding this ballroom addition to the White House grounds. Jennifer.
To follow up on that, one thing that's not in the president's model is the East Wing bunker, the president's emergency operations center. Can you say if his update, that $300 million, does that include the cost for upgrading that bunker?
Look, like any security enhancements that are made on the White House grounds, those will be made and maintained by United States Secret Service. As for the cost of the ballroom and the construction itself, all of that is going to be, like I've said, privately funded and paid for by the president himself and many generous patriots.
So this is how I became the most dangerous person.
Can you say?
Move 15 frames ahead.
Let's get that one.
Thanks. We just.
Okay. So the White House has explained that the reason you didn't submit construction plans to the NCPC is because that commission, along with others, don't have oversight over demolitions, but only over construction. And so far you haven't built anything. So can you help us understand, can the president tear down anything he wants without oversight? Can he demolish this building or say the Jefferson Memorial?
So it's not the
on our middle
president
keyframe, we're going to
came
increase
up
our
with that legal
scale
opinion himself.
to
That's a legal
110%.
opinion that's been held by the NCPC for many years. It's written, so we can get you that background and that research if you wish to include it in your reporting, because it is very important. They have ruled consistently, their general counsel has said, when it comes to phase one of this project, the tearing down of the current East Wing structure, a submission is not required legally for that. Only for vertical construction will a submission be required, and that's a legal opinion from them, and we are following that legal opinion.
And then on our
Again,
last
I would
key
just
frame,
add,
we're
can
going to
any
reduce
president
this
do
to
such a thing to the
19%.
White House grounds? There have been many presidents in the past who have made their mark on this beautiful White House
You'll
complex.
see what happens
This
when we
briefing
play
room,
that
as
text,
you all
it
know, was not once
increases
a
and
briefing room, it
decreases
was a
in
swimming
size.
pool.
What
There
I'm going
have
to do
been
from
presidents
here
who have
is
completely
select on my
torn down
text
the
layer,
executive
right click
mansion.
and
If
say
you look
create
at what
compound
President
clip,
Truman did,
drag this
some of the
above for
photos
2
of
layers.
the
By
construction
using your
project
mouse, you
that
can
took place
scrub
in
to
those
where you
years.
find
I
the
think
text
sitting
is
here
reducing
today,
in
we're all
size.
grateful for
Let's
those
make a cut
efforts and the
and drag the
modifications that
second
happened at that time.
back beneath
And
the
again,
two
in due
clips.
time, the East Wing is
Now
going
you
to
can
be
see we have
more
our text in
beautiful
front
and
of our
modern than
subject
ever
and then
before.
behind
And in
our
addition, there will be a
Now to make
big,
this
beautiful
as smooth
ballroom
as
that
butter
can
and
hold
like After
big
Effects,
parties and
drag
state
2
visits
extra
for
frames on your
generations to
top
come.
clip,
So
go
it
to
sounds like the
animation,
answer
go to
is
out,
yes, he
say
can tear
fade
down
out.
whatever he
Reduce
wants.
this
And then
duration
secondly,
to 0.1
I mean,
seconds.
That's not
Now
what
if
we're
I use
saying.
my
That's
arrow
a
keys
legal
to show you
opinion
how
that's been
that
held for
looks,
many years.
our text looks like it's
No, it's something that
animating
presidents have
behind our
done for
subject.
years and years.
So
In
you
fact,
read
I
it
have
pro
some
if you
photos
don't know
here,
how
thank you, Pat,
duration to
to show you
0.1
the
second.
construction that's taken place on the White House grounds. This is the construction of the West Wing in 1902. Look at this, the construction of the West Terrace in 1902. These images look quite similar to what you and the American people are seeing today, the construction of the East Terrace as well. You look at the construction of the West Wing expansion in 1934. So look, this is a legal opinion that's been held for many years. Look at, this is 1950. That looks a
those are
lot
the
like what you were
constructions.
seeing today.
Can he demolish anything he wants?
What do you think
without
that
oversight?
rubble
Now
is?
if I
How did that
like
rubble
After Effects,
Right, so I'm
back
asking,
beneath the two
and then
clips.
back to
Go ahead, Rick.
many of them
By
are-
using your mouse, you can scrub these in size. What I'm going to do from here, and then on our last
It's
key
being
frame,
reported
we're
that
going to
the
reduce this
semi-truck
to
driver
19%.
suspected of killing
Now
3
you'll see
people
what
in
happens
the
when we play
PUI
that
crash
text,
is an illegal
increases
immigrant who came in
and
under the Biden administration.
What I'm going to do from
Do you
here
know if California
is
gave
select
him
on
a
my text
commercial
layer,
driver's
right-click and
license?
say
And then it
create
also
compound
appears that
clip,
California
drag this above
largely has
onto
not been
the
cooperating with
By using your
English
mouse, you can
proficiency
scrub to
standards.
where
I'm
you
wondering if
find
the
the text
administration
is
has
reducing
any
in
further
size.
plans to
Let's
punish
make a
the
cut
state.
and drag the
Yes,
second
I can
clip
confirm that California
beneath
gave this
the two
individual a
clips.
license, and it is
Now you
something
can
that the
see we have
Department
our
of
text in
Transportation
front of our
has already
subject
looked
and
into.
then
I know
behind our
Secretary
subject.
Duffy,
Now to
who's
make
doing a
this as
phenomenal
smooth as
job,
butter
has
and like After
spoken on
Effects,
this many times
drag
in the
2 extra
crackdown
frames on your top
that the
clip, go
Department
to
of Transportation
animation,
is
go
taking
to
on
out,
these
say fade
licenses
out.
that are
Reduce this
wrongfully
duration
being issued
to
to people who
0.1
clearly
seconds. And
do
now
not
if I use
deserve
my arrow
to
keys
uphold
to
these
show you how that
positions.
looks, our
As for
text
this
looks
case in
like it's
California,
animating
on October
behind our
22nd,
subject.
ICE lodged
Are
an
you really a
immigration
pro if you don't know how to
detainer
do
for
this
this
next one?
individual
Let's go
following
ahead
his
and add
arrest
a
by
default
local
text layer,
authorities in
and let's
California
add
on
an effect.
charges, as you know, of manslaughter while intoxicated and driving under the influence. He killed 3 people, and he first entered the United States in 2022 through the southern border, and he was released into our country by the previous administration. So now ICE has lodged a separate detainer for this individual, and these tragedies are following a disturbing pattern of these criminal illegal aliens being issued commercial vehicle licenses. And so yes,
drag
the
my
Department
text
of
layer so it
Transportation
fits on
is
the whole
absolutely
timeline.
cracking down on that. I defer you to them
Selecting
for
on my
any
text layer,
specifics.
I'm going to go to tracking
Venezuela,
versus
President
track,
Trump has said
drag.
Maduro doesn't want to mess with the United States, and this administration is continuing to position more military assets towards Venezuela. I'm wondering if the end goal of this narco-terrorist war is to implement a regime change in Venezuela.
The president has spoken on that, Reagan, and I certainly won't get ahead of him. What we've made very clear is that this administration is not going to tolerate international narco-terrorist organizations from trafficking drugs into the United States. And these cartels over time have grown more armed, well-organized, and violent. They have financial means, sophistication, and capabilities needed to operate in the way this administration has. And they have illegally caused the deaths of tens of thousands of American citizens each year. So that's where we are right now with respect to Venezuela, but also any country that is sending purposefully illegal narco-terrorists to the United States of America to bring illegal drugs. Why don't we go in the back?
The U.S. and Colombian relationship right now is at one of its lowest points in decades. We heard what President Gustavo Petro had to say about President Trump. We heard yesterday the response from President Trump. Is there any kind of compromises or gestures from the Colombian president that President Trump would like to see in order to de-escalate
what I do to make this interesting
is it
is turn off
possible
scale
a
and distance.
de-escalation?
Now when we click play,
I don't think
you'll
we're
see
seeing
that our text
de-escalation from
follows the
the
subject as it
unhinged leader of Colombia right now, and I don't think the president, frankly, is interested in that at this point. He spoke on this yesterday, and I don't have anything to add to his comments. Go ahead.
Thank you, Carol. In addition to the ballroom and the rose garden
I'm going into the
patio,
back. Sorry. Go ahead.
in addition to the ballroom and the rose garden patio, is the president looking at any other renovations or significant kind of projects here at the White House?
Not to my knowledge, no, but he's a builder at heart, clearly, and so his heart and his mind is always churning about how to to improve things here on the White House grounds, but at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority.
Shorts, but here's the perfect example from my buddy Jade from Field Life. He made a long-form piece of YouTube content, and that got him a couple thousand views. He then created shorts from it.
Since then, he has canceled the meeting and he has imposed sanctions
So
on
if you
Russia.
need to drink them,
Can you
click the
talk
first
about
link
what
in this YouTube video's
changed
description.
that led to this
Try it,
dramatic
test it
shift,
for
or even just what occurred
Better
in the
yet,
last
if you want to
week
make a purchase
that got us from point A to point B?
Sure. Look, the president has always maintained that he would implement sanctions on Russia when he felt
Remember
it
I
was
said not
appropriate
paying
and
hundreds of dollars
necessary.
for pro software?
And
Well,
yesterday
take
was
a look
that
at
day.
this one. This
I
is
think
pretty
the
much like
president has
After
also
Effects
long
directly from
expressed his
CapCut.
frustration
By
with
simply
Vladimir
selecting
Putin
an
and frankly
element,
both
going to
sides of this
effects,
war. And
searching
he's
for
always
pay,
said in order
you'll
to
find an
negotiate a
effect
good
called
peace
Play
deal,
Engine.
both
Let's go
sides
ahead
need to be
and drag that
interested
onto
in
our
a good
subject.
peace deal. And
You
he
can see
feels
that if we
as though,
automatically drag it
unfortunately,
onto
from
our subject, it
the
creates this
Russian
weird
side
box.
as
Let
of
me show
late,
you how to
he
fix
has
this.
not seen enough
Does
interest
learning
and
to
enough
shoot and edit
action
videos
in
the
terms
way
of
you're trying
moving
to
the ball
solve
forward
one?
towards peace.
You're
And
not
so
alone.
a meeting
Everyone wants
between
to
these
get
two
content
leaders
better
is not
nowadays.
completely
We'll
off
learn
the
how to
table. I
fix
think the
this.
president and the
Select your
entire
element and
administration
let's
hopes
create a
that one
compound
day
clip.
that
Now
can
what we
happen
do is we
again,
drag Play
but we
Engine
want to
onto
make
our
sure that there's a
subject.
tangible,
Turn,
positive
twist all the way
outcome out
down,
of that
turn
meeting,
sharpen all the way
and
down,
that it's a
and
good
you can
use of
adjust
the
your
president's
element
time. Of
speed
course,
and
he's
strength
traveling to Asia
before
next week.
changing very
He has a
little.
number of events
Now when
coming
we
up
click
here
play,
on the
you can
home
see
front
our
as well.
subject appears
He's
to
been
be
incredibly
floating
busy,
in
as
the
you all know. You're
What's
all
great is you can
tired
apply
from
this to
covering him
images, text,
and his
objects,
movements
and
every
more.
day. And
By
so
changing the speed and
we want
strength
to make
of
sure
each
it's a
one,
good
you
use
can
of the
have an
president's
effect
time,
where
and the president
organ
doesn't want to waste his time, and he said that.
Between the Secretary of State and Lavrov that led President Trump to believe that President Putin or the Russians did not want a peace deal.
That was not the
Select your
sole
element
reason, no. I think
and
the
play
Secretary
engine.
Rubio felt
This
that
is
was
pretty
actually
much
a
like After
productive
Effects
call.
directly
But
from
again,
CapCut.
the president wants to
By
make sure
simply
that a
selecting
meeting
an
between
element going to
himself
effect.
and President Putin will be a good use of his time.
What exactly led to President Trump not believing after his call on Thursday, where he said he did think he wanted peace and wanted a peace deal, to believing that Russians were not?
Again, the president wants to see action, not just talk. And I think the president is extremely motivated by the success of his peace deal in the Middle East to get things done. And he wants this war to come to an end. He's been saying it now for 9 months being in office, and he's grown increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress from both sides of this war. Mary.
Searching for pay.
Two quick construction questions, if I can. You mentioned any construction project comes with changes.
You'll find
the
an
president
effect
had
called
initially said that this project wouldn't interfere with or touch the current structure. Now he says to do this properly, he realized that the East Wing had to be demolished. This is the people's house. Why not inform the public
Let's go ahead
of
and drag
that
that
change and
onto
when
our
it was
subject.
decided that
You
the
can see
East
that.
Wing would have to be demolished?
Look, again, with any construction project, changes
If we
come,
automatically drag it onto our
and
subject,
we have
it creates this
informed
weird
all of
box.
you.
Let me
We've
show
been
you
keeping
how
you
to fix
apprised
this.
of this project. We've
Select your
shown you the
element and
renderings.
let's
And if you
create
look
a
at the
compound clip.
renderings, it's
Now-
very clear the East Wing was going to be modernized. Instead, in fact, I said that in the briefing when we initially introduced this plan to all of you and to the public. The East, well, again, the president, the plans changed when the president heard counsel from the architects and the construction companies who said that in order for this East Wing to be modern and beautiful for many, many years to come, for it to be a truly strong and stable structure, this phase one that we're now in was necessary. And the president wants to do right by the people's house. And so that's exactly what he's doing. It's going to be, again, like I said, much more stable, strong, secure, and more beautiful than ever once it's complete.
Where will those be? The First Lady's offices, the Social Secretary's office?
In the East Wing.
They will be back where they were?
Yes. Perfect.
Raised some concerns about plans to import beef from Argentina. How will the Trump administration support those farmers?
Look, the president hears those concerns. He addressed them yesterday himself. President loves our ranchers, and our ranchers love our president. And in fact, the president did a lot for them in his first term here. They are struggling because of the many horrible policies of the previous administration. President loves our ranchers, and he also loves American consumers, and he wants to do right by both. So the immediate solution to the problem of the rising cost of beef, President wants to bring that down as we have to increase our supply. And so that's what he's doing with respect to these imports. The president also is looking out for our ranchers with a long-term plan that was released by the Secretary of Agriculture yesterday. It's a 3-part plan. It's very extensive and detailed. I would encourage all of you to read through it. But there's really 3 points to this plan that the president has agreed upon and has entrusted Secretary Rollins to implement. Number 1, strengthening U.S. cattle production through increased grazing access, endangered species reforms, enhanced disaster relief, increased access to capital, and reducing costs for new and young ranchers. We want to incentivize more Americans to get into this noble profession, lowering long-term costs by cutting inspection costs, increasing market options for consumers with product of USA labeling, and ensuring consumers know that they are eating American beef. It's a good incentive for the American consumer. And lastly, growing the domestic herd while boosting long-term demand to reduce prices for consumers while growing the markets for our ranchers. So President hears them. He has to address both of these problems for the ranchers, but also for the American consumer. He promised to lower costs, and that's what he's committed to doing.
Thank you. Two questions not on the ball running. The first is, there's a Democrat in Texas who's actually running for Congress who said last night during an interview when talking about fighting Republicans and this administration, quote, "If you hit me in my face, I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck." This is obviously really upset those folks over at Turning Point USA after the Charlie Kirk assassination. Just your response to that kind of rhetoric?
Very jarring rhetoric, and I think it's very unacceptable. I hope the people of Texas will do the right thing and reject this person's candidacy. It should have no place in American politics.
Just a quick second question on oversight Democrats that are saying that they're creating this master ICE tracker, basically tracking all ICE activity. We've seen the protests in New York just yesterday. Homeland Security is saying that this sounds like obstruction of justice. What do you say?
Again, this is actively putting the lives of our ICE agents at risk. We've seen media outlets, in fact, in this room also write stories about ICE tracker apps that Democrats and other left-wing activists have created to track the location of ICE agents on the ground in our communities. Again, I've said this repeatedly, and I will continue to say it. The men and women of ICE are outstanding people. I wish a Democrat on Capitol Hill would actually have the courage or the guts to stand up to their party and sit down with some of these men and women who are doing this incredibly difficult job of enforcing our federal immigration laws. They are, again, simply trying to enforce the law and do their jobs. And if Democrats spent a little bit more time understanding that and also focusing on the people who they are trying to get out of our country every single day. As I spoke about earlier, 3 innocent people in California are dead because an illegal alien who Democrats let into this country was wrongfully issued a trucker's driving license and clearly was not fit for the job because he was driving intoxicated and killed 3 innocent people. Democrats should focus a little bit more on that. Stop trying to fight this president and this administration on every turn and restore law and order. That's all that we and these brave men and women of ICE are trying to do. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have 2 questions on San Francisco and one of the no-change protesters. On San Francisco, the president said that he had a call with the mayor and he was planning on surging there, but now because the mayor really wants to fix it up himself, they're going to do that. Is this what Trump hopes happens in pretty much every city?
The president hopes, and I've said this so many times, and I think the president's conversation with the San Francisco mayor last night and his statement today prove the president is willing to work with anyone across the aisle, across the country, to do the right thing and clean up America's cities. He is genuinely interested in this effort to make our streets safer, to make our cities safe and clean again. And he heard from the mayor last night. He told him that he is going to earnestly try to make his city better on his own. The president heard him out. He said, okay, I'll give you a chance. We'll be watching, and if you need us, we are here. And if I feel as though you continue to fail your citizens, the federal government may have to step in. But we'll continue to watch San Francisco, and that law enforcement operation has now been paused.
Thank you. And then on the No Kings protesters, I saw videos of people explicitly calling for violence against Stephen Miller, against the president, shirts saying we don't have enough assassins, calling for more political violence. Does the president want to see arrests here, and are we going to see arrests of these types of explicit calls to violence?
I would think myself, the president, and everyone here at the White House certainly hopes that anyone who is making violent and illegal threats in that way against public officials will be arrested and prosecuted.
Sure. Thank you. 2 questions. Would the president support the Senate ending the legislative filibuster to end the shutdown?
This is something I haven't heard the president talk about much, so I don't want to speak on him for it. I'll let him answer that question himself.
Can you have an update on the NASA administrator nominee? Do you plan to nominate anyone soon? Nominate anyone?
Selecting my voice, I can click generate. And if we go ahead and play this,
he'll make a decision in due time, and when he does, you will hear directly from him as you always do. We'll give our friends in the back a chance.
To me, that sounds super professional and something that I can use in my YouTube videos. Play around. There's other voices like Mickey Mouse.
benefits next month if
There's
the
female
shutdown
voices.
continues. Senator Hawley is floating a bill that would
Bring
ensure
back to my
SNAP
magic
benefits
tools.
will
There's another
continue
one that I
to pay
use all the
during the
time
shutdown.
called imaging
Would the
upstate.
president
I'm sure
support
you've
such a
all heard
move?
about it.
And
Just
you
kidding.
also
Great thing
announced
about this
that
is it's
the
free.
administration was using tariff revenue to keep WIC going during the shutdown. How long will that last? And is anything similar being considered for SNAP?
Yes, the administration would absolutely support that legislation. We hope that it would come over the finish line, but the bill that will get everyone paid and put everyone back to work is the clean continuing resolution. That's what the president and Republicans want to see. Ed, go ahead, Ed.
Thanks, Carolyn. On the Russian sanctions again, how much pressure do you think that
Let's say I
the
had an old
sanctioning these two
thumbnail that
Russian
was
companies
really
actually
good. Bring
puts
back to my
on
magic
President
tools.
Putin?
There's
Because
another
the
one
last
that I use all the
administration
time called
sanctioned two
imaging
other oil
upstate.
companies.
I'm
How
sure
much
you've
kind
all
of
heard
pressure
about
is
it.
this
Just
really?
kidding.
A
Great thing
lot.
about this
You
is
read the
it's free.
sanctions and look at them,
Let's
they're
say I
pretty
had an
hefty.
old thumbnail
And
that
I
was
saw
really
some
low
international
res. I
news
can
out
go
of
ahead
China
and
this
open.
morning
You
that
can
they're
see
scaling
that this
back
is really,
oil
really
purchases
bad
from Russia.
resolution.
We know India
Let's go
has
ahead
done
and
the
change
same
this
at the
to
request
4K.
of the
I'm going to
president.
select
The
4K
president has
and click
also
upscale.
pushed
By
European
clicking this
countries, our
original, you can
allies,
see that
to
everything is
please
kind of blurry.
stop their
And then
purchases
if
of
we
Russian
swipe that,
oil as well.
we
So
now have a very,
it's full
very
court
sharp
press for
looking
sure,
image.
and
One of
we
the most
expect that these
important parts
sanctions are
of
going to
making
do
a
harm,
video
as
is
the
the
Secretary of
thumbnail.
Treasury
Tap
said
it has a
yesterday.
very
Is this just the first step,
cover,
or could there be more
and then
sanctions?
new.
I'll leave that to the
We get a
president to
choice
decide.
now to create a
Sure.
thumbnail directly from CapCut.
Or heard
What's
the
great is you can
NBA
use the elements
gambling,
within your video
involved in the
in your
gambling
thumbnail.
issue there.
What's even
Does the
cooler though
president
is that
gamble?
you
What
get
do you think
access
about
to
that?
hundreds and hundreds of templates. Just remember
I'm
when
not
it
sure. I
says
don't
Pro,
think he does.
that's for the Pro version
I've
of
been with
CapCut,
him
but
quite
everything
some
that
time,
doesn't
and I
have
have
Pro on
not
it
seen him gamble
is free.
before. I
By
don't think
simply
he's a
finding
big
a template you
gambler,
want to use, you can
but
go
you
ahead
can
and
ask
click
him
that and it's
yourself
going
the
to
next
apply
time you
it
have
to
a
your
chance
design
to,
page.
Ed.
Once it's on your design page, we can
Carolyn,
change all
got
the
two
Hi,
quick
Jake,
questions.
and then we'll go
the
to
text
you.
and the objects. Just take a look at how I
Two quick
replicated
questions.
my
Back to the
Nutty's
ballroom.
thumbnail.
It is a very spectacular
You can now
ballroom
make
according to
still
the
images
renderings,
look
and
3D.
if it's half
Something
as
that would
nice as
take
the one of
hours
Mar-a-Lago,
inside of
then
After Effects takes
future
minutes or
presidents are really going to
seconds.
appreciate it.
They will.
Select it on my
First
image,
of all,
make it go to effects,
is there
video effects,
is there
and
like an
motion.
official name?
Find
Like,
one
are we
called
calling it
3D
the
Zoom.
Trump
We
ballroom,
can
or
go
does
ahead
the
and click
president have a
that plus
vision
icon
for
to apply it to our
what the name for the ballroom is going to be?
Our
There will
background and
be
our
an
subject
official name.
move
I will let the
independently,
president
and it
announce
creates this
that
cool
once he
documentary style 3D
firmly
effect.
decides on it.
Question, so, looking at these renderings, and it kind of got me thinking, he's likely going to go down as the greatest builder of this era, and you've been in on a lot of those meetings with him.
Knowing how to draw your
knowledge,
attention
has
to one
the
part of your
subject of
screen is something pro
rebuilding the
editors do all the
Holy
time.
Temple in
It's super
Jerusalem come
crucial.
up?
Let's say
It
we
has
wanted
not.
to highlight
No.
the text. Cows
It
lose
has
their
not.
jobs as milk prices
I
drop.
don't. I'm
By
sorry.
clicking on what I want to highlight, I'm going to create a duplicate layer. Now on my top layer, I'm going to go to my adjustment tab and bring my
I won't get ahead
exposure
of that.
all
That's
the way
something
down.
for
Go
Treasury or
back
the
to video
Departments
and
of
select
Commerce
mask,
to
and let's
comment on,
create a
so you're welcome to
rectangle.
ask them.
Now I'm going to stretch this rectangle just to cover the text I want to highlight.
President's Walter Reed visit. The readout from his doctor mentioned advanced imaging.
Once I've covered that text, let's add some feathering.
Advanced imaging
Now let's
is
select
something
the
that
verse.
presidents receive
We can
and
now see that our
people
title is
receive when they
highlighted.
go to the doctor.
But there's an extra thing
And
that
so
you
we
can
provide a
do. Drag the
detailed
top layer a
readout of
couple
that
of frames
physical,
along. Let's
and
go
I would
ahead and
encourage
add
you
an
back to that.
animation or
Presidents
fade
and
in.
Presidents
You can see
and
now
I
when
don't
we clear
know
our
the exact
timeline,
imaging
our
that took
text is
place,
highlighted
but
perfectly.
as
By
the
selecting both my
physician's
layers,
note
I'm going
said,
to
the
create a
president
compound
is
clip.
in
I can add
incredibly
an
good shape, and I
animation
think
that
that's
affects
evident
both
here
of our
every
clips,
single day.
creating this hyper-realistic text highlighting.
Back to the ballroom, I'm afraid.
A progress bar helps
I
you
just
receive
wanted
when
to
the
ask,
sick both my
because
layers. I'm going to
in
create a
July,
compound.
the White House said that it would cost 200 million. Yesterday, the president said 300 million. Is 300 million now the operative figure, and why did it go up by so much?
300 million is the figure, and again, it's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime. So we look forward to this project continuing, and we will continue to keep everyone apprised on it. Perhaps the president will even bring you all out to see it one day at the appropriate time. You're also going to hear from the president directly in about an hour. He's hosting an event with the Homeland Security Task Force. This was a newly created federal task force that the president and his law enforcement team have put together. I would encourage you all to tune in to the remarks. They have really done a tremendous job at refocusing how federal law enforcement and local law enforcement work together. There will be some local sheriffs and law enforcement officials in attendance as well, and they'll be talking about the success and the many arrests they have made of drug traffickers and cartel tell members all across the country by just simply working
Go
together.
back to
So we
video
will
and
see you at
select
the event.
mask and let's
Thank you.
create a rectangle.